meta practice here. But no, we sort of had we lost a speaker somewhere along the line. So I'm going to step in right now really quickly. I don't know if any of you had access to the pre-activity video that Dr. Delgado and I sent out. But in that, what I talked a little bit was about enriching your classroom space with more of a critical approach. And so from my background, I was an ESL teacher in Colorado for 5 years. I also actually taught kindergarten for a year before that. So I've been really through the whole gambit. I had kindergarten, and then I also endorsed teachers for ESL from 2nd through 5th. So I really have engaged with a lot of different age ranges. And while I was at UT, our teacher preparation program was specifically catered to urban multicultural schools and populations. So here is our speaker. I lied. You're not going to get that. That's just me. Up next.
Thank you anyway.
Yep.
Won't be the last we hear from Dr. Nate.
Yeah, and if you have more questions about that video, about implementing a critical approach, like I said in that, please reach out to me.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Oh, I've seen some of y'all already.
Think.
Yeah, that's fine.
Should be loading yours up here. And you have a clicker up here? Yes. Can we do this presentation slide, y'all?
Yeah.
You're amazing, thank you. I'll leave this with you. There we go.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna put on my glasses, y'all, because I can't see that good. So I'm Jordan Hankins. I'm the founding director of the Southern Nevada Black Educators Initiative. And if can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, good. So this is not going to be a presentation where I'm going to be just like talking to everyone. I want us to be able to engage and have a conversation. So I wanted to talk about critical liberatory pedagogy. So why you should see color, embrace class and cultural differences, and advocate with and on behalf of your students. So does anyone know what we're looking at here? It's a couple images. It's 3 images. And please feel free to, speak out.
Is it Ruby Bridget?
Somewhere in there. I don't believe so. Maybe so. But do we know what this is, like what these images are portraying or what we're kind of looking at here? I thought I heard someone.
It says segregation.
Oh, okay, I couldn't. Yeah. So absolutely, so school segregation. So obviously we have an image of a black child with a sign that says, "Don't treat our children like prisoners." Then right behind her is, "We protest school segregation," from the NAACP. And then we have a news article just kind of talking about how school segregation has finally been banned, right, in the southern region of the United States. And does anyone know anything about desegregation of schools?
A little.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a coworker who said she was, her and her sister were the first to enter Rancho High School.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It was interesting to meet somebody that actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. Does anyone know anyone that's ever gone to a segregated school? Did you?
My mom.
Oh, your mom. Okay, I'm like, you, yeah.
The year that they passed the law,
Uh-huh.
they didn't want it to happen, so they came in and burned her school down.
Really? Where was this at?
South Carolina.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. My parents both attended segregated schools in their earlier years, grade school. They both were raised, my dad was raised in Mississippi, my mother was raised in Arkansas, Helena, Arkansas, which is about 30 minutes away from Memphis, so y'all can assume, how racist it is in those parts, right? And I say that to say, and I like to bring that up because it's very real, right? We like to these images are black and white, but it's not black and white, right? Our folks are still living in color, right? So we want to always kind of keep that in the back of our heads, like segregation was not that long ago. So the underrepresentation of black teachers in the K through 12 public school system can be credited to the landmark 1954 Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka decision, where Supreme Court justices unanimously decided that racially segregated schools were unjust and unconstitutional. So this decision, although well-intentioned, had immediate and devastating impacts on black communities, as thousands of highly qualified and credentialed black educators were consequently demoted, dismissed, and pushed out of newly desegregated schools. And subsequently, these black teachers were replaced by white teachers. So the consequences of the 1954 Brown versus Board decision are still felt today in public schools, as the demand for black teachers far outspaces the supplies. So I started this work because I really wanted to dismantle the school to prison pipeline, right? And I don't know if you guys had a chance to read my bio, but I was one of the students that was in that pipeline, like very deeply. So a lot of my friends are like still in prison that I went to high school with, right? And really didn't take the right path. So it was very easy, especially here in the Clark County School District, to go down that path. So I really made it my mission in undergrad to say, how do we dismantle this? Like, what do we need to do? So I started to do a lot of research, and I found that it all comes full circle, right? A lack of representation and a lack of educators within the classroom who are aspiring our students, right? And to be able to mitigate and also work to dismantle that pipeline as well. So the role of black educators before the Brown versus Board decision. So Dr. Vanessa Siddle-Walker has done a lot of research. Is anyone familiar with Dr. Vanessa Siddle-Walker? I wasn't either until I embarked on this, this research journey to figure out the role that black educators played in the classrooms prior to the Brown versus Board decision. So black teachers, and Dr. Vanessa Siddle-Walker was quoted saying, "Black teachers created powerful platforms for advocacy, and thanks in large part to that organizational structure, that they had created a large network of schools that cared for black children and supported their aspirations for full citizenship. The whole idea was to prepare them for a world that didn't exist yet. So by teaching them not just to master academic content, but also to use the tools of democracy, logic, persuasion, and oratory." So Dr. Siddle-Walker always uses the 3 A's in all of her lectures, right? And the 3 A's is something that the black educators use in their network to employ, which was to aspire, to advocate, and to give their students access, right? So for number 1, for aspire, so black teachers nurtured the aspirations of black students. So they took the negative messages from the larger society, the media, and reconstructed them and made children believe that they can be anything that they wanted to be. Advocacy, which was that second A, is black teachers taught black children how to be resilient in a segregated society, right? So they seeded the civil rights movement within this curriculum. So not only did they aspire their black students and tell them, hey, you can be whatever you want to be in this society, right? The society that doesn't care for you, the society that pushes you to the side and marginalizes you, but also how to work within the society, right? And how to tear that system down while you're working in it at the same time. So the third one was access. So black teachers were able to, a lot of times we don't talk about, well, when we're talking about the desegregation movement, we don't mention the black teachers who played such a large role in desegregating the segregated South, right, especially within our schools. But black teachers played a major role in that. So black teachers really wanted to give their students that access to resources. Can anyone else let me know kind of what else our black students needed access to? What do you need to be successful in the classroom or as a...
Books, supplies.
Right. What about in the world?
No food.
That too. But what do you absolutely need food. But as far as access, black teachers wanted to give their students the resources that they couldn't give them because a lot of schools didn't have that support, right, that financial support. So whether that's really good books or I'm not gonna say computers, but what we would want to give our students now who may not have the access as other students do far up in Summerlin, right? So for the Clark County School District, so as of today almost, 1,500 out of 18,000 licensed Clark County School District professionals identified as black. So that is a very, very, very small number of black teachers that we have, right? So why is it important that we do have black teachers in the Clark County School District?
The representation to students. ratio.
And everybody, y'all, please, why is it important that we need representation?
Because there's quite a bit of African American students, and they need to see an example. They need someone to look up to.
Absolutely. So Black teachers can have meaningful impact on Black students' academic and social success because they often deeply understand the Black students' situations and their needs, right? So longitudinal data produced by the Tennessee Star Project supports that Black teachers have critical long-term and short-term effects on the success of Black students, particularly Black male students from disadvantaged backgrounds. So when Black students had at least one Black teacher in grades K through 3, Black students had increased test scores, higher attendance rates, and disciplinary outcomes. And when assigned to at least one Black teacher between grades K through 3, the likeliness of high school graduation significantly increased for Black students. Further, this research concluded that having a Black teacher between grades K through 3 increases a Black student's likelihood of taking a college entrance exam and enrolling in a post-secondary institution by 19%, compared to their Black peers who were not assigned a Black teacher between grades K through 3. So Black boys, a minority demographic, are overrepresented in Nevada's juvenile justice system. So in the last 3 years, Black students accounted for 43% of police referrals, meaning arrests or citations, and they only represent 14% of the student body. The Clark County School District is the 5th largest school district in the nation and serves more than 320,000 students in the most densely populated area in Nevada. And there were 45,453 Black students enrolled in the school district, totaling 15% of the population. So there's a lot of Black students within the Clark County School District, only 1,500 Black teachers, so we do see a lot of disparities between those. So Mr. Johansson. So I graduated from Cimarron Memorial High School. Is anybody familiar? Okay, got you. I graduated in 2008, and back then there was still the zero tolerance policies going on, so they was RPCing students for, like, I used to get suspended so much from school, yeah, it don't even make no sense. For like stuff that doesn't even matter, right? So they intentionally tried to push out Black students, right? And they probably don't even do it on purpose, but that's just what it is, right? So I never had a Black teacher between K through 12 ever, right? Around 6th or 7th grade, I went to Brindley Middle School. Anyone familiar with Brindley? So I really started to lose motivation, and that's not my teacher's fault by any means, right? But I never had anyone to just say, hey, Jordan, like, what's going on? Like, why are your grades dropping? You know, you're a brilliant student. Like, come on, like, go play basketball or something. You know, like, let's get you in some after-school activities. Never had anyone do that. So by the time the 10th grade came around, I was ready to drop out. I was over it. I didn't have credits. I never went to school until I went to Mr. Johansson's office, and Mr. Johansson was that teacher in our school. He was actually a school counselor who served as like protection and solace for a lot of Black students, right? We all still keep in contact with him to this day. We all grown. And Mr. Johansson, he understood us, right, like culturally. Even though he's not a part of our culture, he still never judged us, and we can always just go to his classroom. But he also didn't play with us either, right? He was still kind of hard on us. So Mr. Johansson was literally responsible for a lot of folks graduating during that time. So I went to Mr. Johansson and said, I'm about to drop out, I'm over it. He was like, absolutely not, no the hell you're not, you're staying in school. So he really put me on the right track to graduate high school, right? And I really owe a lot to Mr. Johansson, because it had not been for him, I wouldn't be able to be here talking to y'all today, and that's just honestly what it is, right? So Mr. Johansson put me on the right track. He helped me regain my credits. He gave me the motivation that I had been lacking. And like I said, never judged. And he was just always there for me to talk. So it brought me to a roundabout way, and I'm trying to go a little fast because I know we don't have much time, but to form the Southern Nevada Black Educators Initiative, which I am the founding director of, and we launched last year. So our mission, or the purpose of the Southern Nevada Black Educators Initiative, is to reduce racial education attainment gaps in Southern Nevada's Clark County School District by recruiting and retaining Black pre-service and in-service educators. So we envision a public K-12 education system in Southern Nevada that is culturally affirming for Black students and educators that facilitates upward socio-economic mobility. So through critical mentorship, advocacy, public policy, we hope to dramatically increase the number of Black licensed professionals in Clark County School District from 8% to 25% by 2030. So we recently launched the Amplifying Black Voices Critical Mentorship Program on January 31st of this year. And what we do is work with Black students in the College of Ed, undergrad students, to be able to give them a voice, right? To allow them to feel seen and heard, and to make sure that we are working to strengthen this pipeline, because last year only 2 Black students graduated, undergrad students from the College of Ed, right? So what is that saying for our pipeline, right? So critical mentorship, I'm not gonna go through all these, but critical mentorship addresses systemic racism and institutional issues of race, ethnicity, class, and ability, and how these cultural politics shape your experiences and identities as a student. So our mentors act as opportunity brokers to assist students in accessing resources and extending their networks in ways that assist them to overcome obstacles that they'll face in college and well into their careers. So we provide a space for our students an opportunity to be their own agents and navigate freely and facilitate their own processes. So these are some of our mentors. I just want to shout them out. They are licensed professionals in the College of Ed. So all of these are brilliant folks who decided to be a part of our pilot program that we hope to continue in the future or next semester. So we also have the Amplifying Black Voices Network, which is our professional development project. And this project serves as a mechanism to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline as well by reimagining the way we engage Black students in the Clark County School District. So this is open to all educators within the Clark County School District who have a commitment to racial equity within the classrooms, right? So through professional development, which is continuing education credits, research, curriculum development, co-facilitating workshops, and presenting at conferences, licensed educators will gain the skills and knowledge to adopt the pedagogical methods employed by Black teachers pre-desegregation, right? So we want to kind of bring back that old method that Black teachers employed and use it for all teachers, right? No matter whatever your race or ethnicity is. So we want all teachers to use that 3A method, that advocacy, that aspire, and that access model. So dismantling the school to prison pipeline. So transforming your classroom into a freedom space. So you can't just denounce racism and injustice, but you also have to teach that, right? And it has to be embedded within your pedagogy. So schools, not prisons. So the school space should be aesthetically and structurally different from the attainment centers as well as teaching and learning practices. Again, we're gonna go back to its aspirations. So Black teachers nurture the aspirations of Black students, so we need you to take those negative messages from the larger society and reconstruct them and make children believe that they can be anything that they want to be. Liberatory pedagogy. So prepare your Black students for society where they will encounter racism at any level, or at many levels. And Black students should learn about the root of their oppression so they may begin to take action to end their own oppressions. And then celebrate race and culture. So educators should recognize racial and cultural differences, as well as learn the history of their students' cultures and neighborhoods that you teach in. So don't just teach in the neighborhood, don't just get money in the neighborhood, but make sure that you're advocating in that neighborhood as well, right? Understand who's in the neighborhood, get to know people in that neighborhood. Do anything that you can in that neighborhood to become a face in that neighborhood. So Black students should also be empowered to acknowledge and celebrate their culture and the power of their heritage through culturally relevant instruction. So I'm going to pause here. Does anyone have any questions? So why is it important? I have a question. So why is it important to transform your classroom into a freedom space, especially in our climate today, especially in CCSD, where we know we've seen the disparities, right? How many students are being pushed into that pipeline? Why is it important that you transform your classroom, or your classroom becomes a place for a safe space for students? Anybody know?
A lot of our classrooms look like prisons. There's no windows.
Right.
You know, we're going to try and make it look more like a safe space for learning and not the school to prison pipeline like you're talking about.
Absolutely. I remember always thinking that too. I'm like, where are the windows at school? You know what I mean? Like, we can't even see outside. And then the way our desks are structured. And what about images and books, literature? How can we use those things to transform our spaces?
Well, they have to see themselves in the books and who they can become. So, or train doctors that look like them. Maybe, yeah.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
Had somebody share with me once recently that it could be as simple as putting posters in your room with faces of, you know, the girls and boys from different nationalities in different careers. I never thought about that before. I'm like, oh, it's so simple. I can believe it.
Absolutely. There was someone in the last presentation, and she mentioned putting up images of Black and brown folks who are like lawyers and doctors to show students that this is possible, because so often our curriculum does not share that with our students, right? It's very counter that, right? It's like, this is not who you typically would see in these levels of position, right, or power. So we want to make sure that we're changing that narrative as well to give students something to aspire to, right? So I think and before I go, y'all, what's our 3 A's? Got you. So to aspire, could someone just kind of read that out loud?
Nurture the aspirations of Black students.
Got you. And advocacy, what do we do when we advocate?
Step up for them and be a voice for them if they need that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also be able to challenge our own biases and also learn the experiences of others, right? And not judge those experiences of other students, right? And for the access part, that's making sure that our Black students, or students of color in general, have access to the resources that their counterparts may not have, right? So whether that's books, financial resources, really go out of our way to make sure that our students are receiving that same support, right, that we would like to receive, or that we want our children to receive as well. So I appreciate you guys. I think I'm out of time. I am out of time. I'm out of time, but I really appreciate you all. And if you do have any questions for me, I am here to answer. Thank you.
All right, so now it is lunchtime, and we need to go back to